Now I want to think about considerations regarding the scaffolds that I'm going to provide for my students. I want to think about how the text is chunked, vocabulary and how I'm going to deal with that, the kinds of text-dependent questions I'm going to ask, and other scaffolds that might become embedded in here. So first I want to talk about chunking. The way that this text is naturally chunked is in 4 sections where students are provided with 4 section headings, and each one of those would provide a main idea and supporting details. So the organization of this passage is very important when we think about how students are going to be achieving the standard and looking at multiple main ideas and the supporting details involving that. So it's naturally chunked into 4 sections, and I want students to take notice of that organization. Next, some points involving vocabulary. I modeled and looked at a few vocabulary terms and how they might be introduced to students. So I really want to make sure that I point out to students that the bolded vocabulary terms have the definitions explicitly embedded in the text, such as herpetologist and camouflage. Since these are naturally embedded and students are provided those definitions, these terms would not need to be front-loaded before we read. These are something that students would be able to take a look at as they read and easily see what the definitions are. The term scampered, which I mentioned, is a good example of a vocabulary term worth discussing with students. The definition is not explicitly stated, but other context clues are present for us to take a closer look at, such as up the side of the tank, while in contrast to the boa that's lying underneath the heat lamp. So students could kind of make that comparison of one is moving quickly up the side and the other's laying under a heat lamp. So that is something worth having some discussion with students. When it comes to text-dependent questions, I really want to look at a few things. One is I want to make sure that my questions support student success with comprehension of the passage, but also with mastery of the standard. So, for example, I want to ask students questions such as, what is this section about, or what is the text about, which is going to help us get to the main idea. We'll want to ask how the text is organized, and like I mentioned before with the natural chunks, that's going to help students understand where the main ideas might naturally fall. How does the structure support the finding of the main ideas, so to help them make that connection. How are essential vocabulary words presented in the text, so we could have some mini focuses on words such as scamper and have kids figure out what that means in the passage and how they would know what's the surrounding evidence to help them figure that out. And questions that aid in comprehension, such as how do the pictures support comprehension? That photograph of the emerald tree boa, how does that support comprehension for students?